The moment my daughter stood up at Christmas dinner and announced she was taking control of everything, I knew the machine was about to break down. You can hear it coming if you know what to listen for, that slight grinding sound right before the whole system locks up. My name is Michael Thompson. I'm 67 years old, and sitting at that dinner table in my daughter's house outside Detroit, watching her tap that wine glass with a spoon. I could feel the pressure building in the room like steam in a boiler with a faulty relief valve. Patricia pushed back from the table, one hand resting on her belly. 5 months pregnant and glowing with that kind of confidence that comes right before a major equipment failure. The conversation stopped. Even the kids sensed something was shifting and went quiet. "I just want to say something before we eat," she said, her voice steady as a well-calibrated torque wrench. "This Christmas is special. We're not just celebrating the holidays. We're celebrating a new chapter." I felt my fingers find the small screwdriver in my pocket, rolling it between my thumb and forefinger. Old habit from 40 years of fixing things that other people said couldn't be fixed. With the baby coming, Patricia continued, "Brian and I have had serious conversations about responsibility, about structure, about making sure our family has proper financial management." Brian sat there nodding like a dashboard bobblehead. 35 years old and still hadn't figured out how to keep steady work. But he sure knew how to agree with whatever Patricia said. "That's why we made a decision," she said, letting the words settle like sediment in an old oil pan. "Starting today, I'll be managing all finances for this family." A murmur of approval went around the table. "Made sense," someone said. "She's organized," another added. Patricia smiled and turned those calculating eyes toward me. "Dad," she said, using that tone mechanics use when they're about to tell you your transmission is shot, "this morning we had your credit card cancelled. It's really for the best. At your age, you shouldn't have to worry about money anymore." The words hit the table harder than a dropped wrench. She kept smiling. "If you need anything, you can just ask me or Brian." I looked down at my hands, still steady after all these years of working with precision tools. The screwdriver felt warm between my fingers. I thought about the last time I'd rebuilt an engine, how you have to take everything apart to see what's really wrong inside. People around the table were lifting their glasses. Someone laughed nervously. Someone else said older folks get taken advantage of all the time. Smart thinking, they said. I felt something deep in my chest seize up, like when a connecting rod bearing starts to fail. This wasn't just about money. This was about respect. About the 38 years I'd spent building something while everyone assumed I was just getting by. I set my glass down. The sound was quiet, but it carried weight like a properly balanced flywheel. Then I stood up slowly, joints creaking like old machinery that still works fine, just needs a little warm-up time. I looked directly at Patricia, at the little girl I'd raised alone after her mother died when she was 8. The girl who used to hand me tools in the garage and ask why engines made different sounds when they were running right versus running wrong. "Patricia," I said quietly, "you really don't know, do you?" Her smile faltered like a belt slipping on a pulley. The room went dead silent. Brian's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. My sister Nancy looked confused. Even the kids stopped fidgeting. "Know what?" Patricia asked, but her voice had changed. Lost that confident edge. I didn't answer right away, because to understand why that question stopped everyone cold, you'd have to know who I really am. And to know that, you'd have to go back 38 years to when I was standing in a hospital hallway, holding discharge papers and wondering how I was going to raise a daughter on a mechanic's salary. Back then, I was just Michael Thompson from East Detroit. Fixed cars and small engines for whoever could pay cash. Patricia's mother had been sick for 2 years, cancer that ate through our savings faster than a seized engine burns through oil. When she died, I was 29 years old with a burial to pay for and a little girl who kept asking when mommy was coming home. I remember walking out of that hospital thinking I had 2 choices: feel sorry for myself or figure out how to build something better. The funeral home wanted $8,000 I didn't have. The house needed a new roof. Patricia needed clothes and food and all those things kids need that cost money I wasn't making. But I knew machines. Always had. While other guys were watching TV or drinking beer, I was taking things apart to see how they worked. Lawnmowers, generators, industrial equipment didn't matter. If it had moving parts, I could make it run better. The first real break came from a guy named Timothy Walsh, who owned a small warehouse. His loading dock conveyor broke down on a Friday, and he was desperate. The service company wanted $1,200 and couldn't get there until Monday. I fixed it for $200 cash that same afternoon. Timothy watched me work and asked questions. Good ones. He explained how businesses think about equipment, how buying broken machinery cheap and fixing it right could be more profitable than buying new. He taught me about depreciation, about cash flow, about reading a deal that most people would walk away from. My first purchase was a busted forklift some warehouse was scrapping. Bought it for $500. Spent 3 weeks rebuilding the hydraulics and engine in my garage while Patricia did homework at the workbench beside me. Sold it for $3,520 and $2,500. Sorry, 525 enders the sacred 100 trains $100 way Felheave would $2,500 to a guy who needed reliable equipment but couldn't afford new way lifted that way bought 2 more broken machines. Fixed those, sold them, bought 4 more. Patricia grew up to the sound of air compressors and impact wrenches. She'd fall asleep to me working late, diagnosing problems by the sound an engine made when it was struggling. By the time she started high school, I wasn't just fixing equipment anymore. I was buying small industrial properties, places with good bones but problems other investors couldn't see past, a warehouse with a roof leak, a loading facility with outdated electrical, storage units in neighborhoods people were abandoning. I'd buy them cheap, fix what was broken with my own hands, then lease them to small businesses that needed space but couldn't afford the fancy places. Steady income. Reliable tenants. Properties that appreciated while generating cash flow. The key was silence. I kept driving the same pickup truck, kept living in the same house, kept wearing work clothes with grease stains that never quite washed out. People saw a mechanic who was careful with money, not a man building wealth one calculated purchase at a time. When Patricia went to college, she thought her scholarship covered everything. I paid the difference through accounts she never knew about. When she bought her first car, I quietly handled the final payment. When she struggled to make rent in those early years, groceries would mysteriously go on sale just when she needed them most. I wanted her to earn her place in the world, to understand that success comes from work, not inheritance, to respect money instead of expecting it. But I also wanted her to know she was never truly alone. By the time she met Brian, I owned 6 industrial properties generating about $12,000 a month. Had investments spread across municipal bonds and blue-chip stocks. My CPA, a guy named Steven Rodriguez who specialized in quiet wealth management, reviewed everything quarterly and never asked questions about why I lived like a man making $50,000 a year. To everyone around me, including Patricia, I was still just Mike Thompson, retired mechanic, widower. Guy who fixed neighbors' lawnmowers for free and drove a 15-year-old Ford pickup because it ran fine and didn't need replacing. That story worked perfectly until someone decided I was too old to manage my own affairs. Brian showed up about 2 years ago, unemployed more often than not, but Patricia seemed happy, so I kept my mouth shut. She was 36, old enough to make her own decisions. When she got pregnant, I figured he'd step up, find steady work, take responsibility. Instead, he found a different solution. Started asking Patricia questions about my finances. Did I have a retirement plan? What would happen if I got sick? Shouldn't someone younger be making sure I wasn't getting scammed? Patricia began repeating those concerns. Dad, you're getting older. The neighborhood's changing. Maybe it's time to let someone help with the paperwork. I declined politely. Said I was managing fine. That's when the pressure started building. Like a hydraulic system with a slow leak. You don't notice it at first, but eventually the whole thing fails. Phone calls became less frequent. Sunday dinners turned into monthly obligations. When I did see them, Brian would casually mention articles about seniors losing money to scams. Patricia would suggest I move somewhere safer. Maybe a nice assisted living place where I wouldn't have to worry about maintenance. I watched it happening like watching a machine break down in slow motion. You can see the wear patterns forming, hear the timing getting off, feel the vibrations that mean something's about to give way. The first real warning came when I found out they'd been calling my bank, claiming to be concerned about unauthorized charges on my account. My banker guy I'd known for 15 years politely told them he couldn't discuss my finances without written authorization. 2 weeks later, Patricia showed up with forms. Just temporary, she said. just in case something happens and we need to help. I refused to sign. Last month, Brian started talking about power of attorney, about how responsible adults plan for incapacity, about how I was being stubborn and putting unnecessary stress on a pregnant woman. When my credit card got declined at the grocery store yesterday, I knew the system had finally seized up completely. At the bank, they showed me the cancellation request, signed by someone with financial power of attorney. I'd never signed those forms. But apparently that didn't matter. Standing at that Christmas table, looking at my daughter's confident smile, I felt something click into place. Like when you finally figure out why an engine's been running rough and you know exactly what needs fixing, the hurt cut deeper than I expected. This wasn't some stranger trying to take advantage of an old man. This was Patricia, the little girl who used to sit on a milk crate in my garage, handing me wrenches and asking how things worked. The daughter I'd protected and provided for without her ever knowing how hard I'd worked to make sure she never went without. And she'd just announced to our entire family that I was too old, too incompetent to handle my own money. I pulled out my phone. "Stephen," I said when he answered. "You can come in now." The confusion around the table was immediate. "Who's Stephen?" Patricia asked, her voice sharp as a stripped bolt. Her confidence was starting to crack, like paint on an overheated exhaust manifold. "My attorney," I replied. "And my financial advisor." The doorbell rang before anyone could ask another question. Stephen Rodriguez walked in carrying his leather briefcase, looking like he'd stepped out of a tax law textbook. Gray hair, steady eyes, the kind of man who speaks only when facts need presenting. He'd been managing my quiet wealth for over a decade, and he understood discretion better than most people understand their own jobs. "Good evening," he said politely. "I represent Michael Thompson." He set the briefcase on the dining table and opened it. Documents filled the available space. Property deeds, investment statements, tax records, bank statements, organized with the precision of a well-maintained tool cabinet. Patricia's face went white as primer. Brian's mouth fell open like a hood latch that had just given way. My sister Nancy leaned forward, squinting at the papers like she was trying to read a parts manual in bad light. "This is ridiculous," Patricia said, but her voice had lost that steady confidence. Now she sounded like an engine missing on 3 cylinders. "Dad, what are you doing?" Stephen cleared his throat and began reading from the top document, his voice calm and professional as a service manual. "Michael Thompson currently owns 6 industrial properties within Greater Detroit. 2 logistics facilities, 3 light manufacturing rental units, 1 commercial storage complex." The laughter Patricia had been building died in her throat like a stalled engine. Current combined valuation $3.8 million, monthly gross rental income $12,000. Net worth, including liquid investments and cash reserves, $422 million. Patricia sat down hard, like someone had cut the hydraulic pressure to her legs. The color drained from her face completely now. Brian was staring at the papers like they were written in a foreign language. Stephen continued in that steady accountant voice that cut through the room's silence like a precision drill bit. "Mr. Thompson requires no financial management. His credit accounts were canceled without legal authorization. Those actions constitute financial elder abuse under Michigan law and will be reversed immediately through proper channels." The room felt smaller now, the air thicker. You could hear the grandfather clock ticking in the hallway, steady as a properly timed camshaft. My nephew Tommy was looking back and forth between me and the documents like he was watching a tennis match. His wife Jennifer had her hand over her mouth. I looked around the table at the family members who'd been nodding along when Patricia announced her takeover. Funny how fast their expressions changed when they realized who'd actually been sitting quietly at the far end of the table all these years. "Dad," Patricia finally managed, her voice small and shaky now. "Why didn't you tell me?" That question hit me harder than I expected. Like when you're working on an engine and suddenly remember the man who taught you to use those tools, who showed you that every machine has a heart you can learn to hear if you listen close enough. "Because I wanted you to become who you are without my money defining you," I said, and I could hear my own voice getting rough around the edges. "I wanted you to work for things, to value them, to understand that respect isn't something you inherit. It's something you earn." I paused, rolling that screwdriver between my fingers, feeling the weight of 38 years of decisions. And because I never imagined my own daughter would try to erase me from my own life. Brian found his voice then, but it came out high and strained. You let us struggle. You watched us worry about bills and rent while you had millions. I shook my head slowly. I watched you live, honestly. You chose to calculate instead of asking for help. The truth was more complicated than that, but some truths are like precision measurements. You can't explain them to someone who doesn't understand the tools. Stephen placed one more document on the table, handling it like it was a crucial component in a delicate repair job. For complete legal transparency, he said, the unauthorized access to Mr. Thompson's accounts constitutes financial elder abuse under Michigan Penal Code 750.174A. Mr. Thompson has the option to pursue both civil and criminal remedies, including restitution and penalties up to 4 years imprisonment. The silence that followed was absolute, like that moment when you shut off a running engine and everything goes completely still. Patricia's eyes filled with tears then, and these weren't the calculated tears she'd learned to use when she wanted something. These were the real thing. The kind that comes when you realize you've broken something that might not be fixable. I was scared, she whispered, her hand moving to her belly. The pregnancy, Brian not working steady, the bills piling up. I thought if you got sick or something happened, we'd lose everything. I thought you were just a retired mechanic living on Social Security. She looked at me across the table, and for a moment I saw the 8-year-old girl who used to climb into my lap after her mother's funeral, asking when the hurt would stop. I never meant to hurt you, Dad. I just wanted to protect our family. The room was so quiet you could hear people breathing. Nancy was dabbing at her eyes with her napkin. Even the kids had gone completely still, sensing the gravity of what was happening without fully understanding it. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her, and saw both the little girl who used to help me organize my toolbox and the woman who just publicly humiliated me in front of our entire family. Protection doesn't require humiliation, Patricia, I said quietly. And family doesn't take without asking. The family dispersed quickly after that. Nobody stuck around for dessert. Nobody asked uncomfortable questions about how they'd missed the obvious signs that the quiet guy at the end of the table wasn't who they thought he was. They filed out with mumbled apologies and averted eyes, like people leaving the scene of an accident they didn't want to get involved in. Patricia sat at the table long after everyone else had gone, staring at the documents Stephen had left behind. Brian had grabbed his coat and left without a word, which told me everything I needed to know about his character when the pressure got too high. What happens now? She asked finally, her voice barely above a whisper. I looked at my daughter, the little girl who used to fall asleep in my garage while I worked late, who used to ask me to explain how every machine worked, and felt something shift inside my chest like gears finally meshing properly after being out of alignment. Now you learn the difference between entitlement and inheritance, I said, and you figure out who you want to be when the shortcuts stop working. Stephen packed up his briefcase with the same methodical precision he brought to everything. Before leaving, he handed Patricia a business card. If you need legal advice regarding separation or custody matters, he said quietly, I can recommend some excellent family attorneys. She took the card but didn't look at it. After Stephen left, Patricia and I sat in the silence of her dining room for a long time. The Christmas tree lights blinked in the corner, and somewhere in the distance a neighbor was running a snowblower. The engine sounded steady and reliable. I messed up everything, didn't I? She said. I thought about that question while rolling the screwdriver between my fingers. In my work, I'd learned that when something breaks down completely, you have two choices, scrap it or rebuild it from the ground up. The decision usually comes down to whether the foundation is still sound. You made some bad choices, I said finally, but you're not broken beyond repair. Over the next few months, I watched Patricia learn things about herself she probably should have figured out years earlier. Brian moved out 2 weeks after Christmas. Turned out he'd been counting on my supposed wealth more than he'd been counting on finding steady work. Patricia got a job at an insurance office, working full-time right up until the baby came. She had to budget for groceries, figure out how to pay rent, learn the difference between wanting something and needing it. All the lessons I'd hoped she'd pick up naturally, but that money had somehow shielded her from. I helped, but carefully, paid for good medical care during the pregnancy, made sure she had reliable transportation, covered the security deposit on a decent apartment in a safe neighborhood. But I did it all through Stephen with clear terms and boundaries, so there was no confusion about charity versus entitlement. When my grandson, Tommy, was born, named after my brother, which surprised me, everything shifted again. Holding him for the first time stripped away all the anger and disappointment that had been building up like carbon deposits in an engine. He was small and perfect and completely unaware of the chaos that had surrounded his arrival. In that moment, looking down at his tiny face, none of the money mattered. None of the documents or legal threats or family drama. Just the responsibility we all carried for making sure he grew up understanding the difference between what you earn and what you expect. Patricia became a different person after Tommy was born. Not perfect, but more real, more honest. She struggled with things that had always been easy before, and that struggle taught her things that comfort never could. 6 months later, she came to see me on a Sunday afternoon, bringing Tommy with her. He was starting to smile at faces, making those little sounds babies make when they're figuring out their voices. "I want to apologize," she said, settling him in the old high chair I'd kept in storage since she was little. "Not just for Christmas dinner, but for not seeing who you really were. For assuming you needed me to take care of you instead of appreciating everything you'd already done." I was rebuilding a carburetor at the kitchen table, old habit that helped me think, and I kept working while she talked. Sometimes the most important conversations happen while your hands are busy with something else. "I spent my whole life thinking you were just my dad who fixed things," she continued. "I never realized you were building something. I never understood that all those nights you worked late, all those weekends you spent on projects, you were creating something for our future." She paused, watching Tommy grab at a shaft of sunlight coming through the window. "And I threw it back in your face in front of everyone." I set down the carburetor and looked at her. Really looked. She was thinner than before, tired in the way that new mothers get tired, but there was something in her eyes that hadn't been there before. Something that reminded me of the little girl who used to ask good questions and listen carefully to the answers. "You made a mistake," I said, "but you're fixing it the right way. That's what matters." Tommy started fussing then, the way babies do when they're hungry, and Patricia picked him up with the confidence that comes from learning to handle things yourself instead of expecting someone else to do it for you. "I want him to know his grandfather," she said. "The real one. Not the version of you I thought I knew." I reached out and touched Tommy's tiny hand, and he grabbed onto my finger with that surprising strength babies have. "He'll know me," I said. "But more importantly, he'll know the value of things you work for instead of things you're given. Money doesn't change who you are. It just shows everyone else who you've always been." I learned that from 38 years of fixing machines and building something valuable while other people assumed I was just getting by. The real wealth isn't in Steven's documents or my property portfolio. It's in knowing that when everything breaks down, you've got the tools and knowledge to rebuild it right. And sometimes the best repair job is the one that takes time, patience, and the wisdom to know which parts are worth saving.